How's it going, John?
It is going well, Eric. How are you tonight?
Great. Thanksgiving was great.
Hope you had a good one.
I did. I actually ended up seeing 3 movies.
Oh, Mr. Movie Man. Okay.
Yeah, I do enjoy going to the movies, despite how everyone likes just watching movies at home. I don't know. Anyway, so I went and saw Frozen 2. It was a quality sequel.
Okay.
Took the whole family, went and saw that one. That was fun.
Nice.
I have a buddy who loves to go see war movies, and pretty much every war movie that comes out, we go see. And we went and saw Midway.
Okay.
And that one was, there was a little too much. Yeah. it was a little much
not
on the macho.
Oh.
The acting was just the acting was just a little over the top. Yeah. And finally, which is the one I would highly recommend anyone to go see, is Knives Out.
Ooh.
It's kind of the Agatha Christie whodunit, really well done. It's got Captain America in it. It's got James Bond in it. James Bond as Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was great.
I have not seen it. I will take your advice though, and hopefully maybe go see it this weekend with the fam.
Yeah, I want to. I'm going to drag my wife along. Not drag. After explaining it to her, she says, "Okay, maybe I would like that one." So I think I might go see it again.
That's cool. Well, we didn't watch any movie. Well, I didn't go out to any movies over the Thanksgiving holiday, but we did. Let's see. We did watch the first 3 episodes at least of The Mandalorian. So I subscribed to
You've caught up?
Disney Plus. Well, a 4th one came out on Friday, so
yeah, I haven't seen that one yet either.
But then, and we've been binging Smallville. I think I might have mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, but we're cranking our way through that. And the
is that on Netflix or where is that
Hulu?
Hulu. Okay.
At least that's where we're watching it. I don't know. It might be in
I
multiple
don't have
places.
Hulu.
But so that's fun. And then
cool.
I don't know. We just had a quiet Thanksgiving around here. It was nice. We sort of did a minimalist Thanksgiving though. So like, what's the actual required minimum number of dishes for Thanksgiving? And evidently for us, that is turkey, stuffing.
I got that one. I did that one.
Gravy.
Yep.
Green beans.
Nope.
And cranberry chutney.
I had a cranberry thing, but it wasn't cranberry chutney.
Yeah.
Did you say?
Oh, and
mashed potatoes?
And biscuits, or not biscuits, but rolls. We did rolls.
Mm.
We did not do mashed potatoes, ironically.
How do you have gravy with no mashed potato?
Gravy goes good on stuffing and turkey, too. To be honest, yeah. Honestly, the potato thing was a last minute. It was on the bench, like literally. We grew a lot of potatoes this year, and so we brought a bunch into the house, and they were in fact they're still up on the counter. But Thanksgiving morning, we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, are mashed potatoes really, like, are they above the line or below the line? And we decided they're just a little bit below the line. At least when it came to, do you want to peel the mashed potato? Peel and make the mashed potatoes. So anyway,
and pumpkin pie at least, right?
I'm going to get myself in trouble. No, we did pecan pie. Actually, well, that was an argument in the in Costco, actually.
ATP.
Well, no, last week. Was that before? I might have mentioned it last week because I feel like I said we broke into the pecan pie.
Oh, maybe that's right.
But
yeah.
Because it was a small Thanksgiving it was just our family, and so. When we were in Costco, we just didn't want to make pies this year. Oftentimes we make them, but those Costco pies are really big. Having 2 of them is a lot of pie. And so, I don't know. I kind of pulled a dad veto and was like, if we're only going to get 1 pie, pecan, which is not really that nice, but because one of my younger boy doesn't actually like pecan pie. But we made it up because now upstairs there is a Costco pumpkin pie. So, We
All
we
right.
just we spread it out.
Forgiven. Yeah, we made I made a pumpkin pie, and my middle daughter made a key lime pie. So key lime
Ooh.
pies. That's not really a Thanksgiving-y thing, but it seems to be one of our weird traditions. So,
No, that's good.
anyways,
That's good.
it was good.
That's good. All right. Yep. A good Thanksgiving was had by all. So now racing off to Christmas, because there's only like 3 weeks in between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. So it's going to come fast.
That's right.
It's going to come fast. So
Yep.
anyway. All right. Follow up.
Yeah. So I had one item of follow up, and I think actually you posted it.
I did see
but
it. Yeah.
I did remember that we had talked about in August of 2018, so
Ooh.
episode 36, quite a while ago.
A long time ago.
About a vulnerability in San Francisco's public safety warning sirens. And this was triggered after, I think in 2017, someone was able to set off the, I think, tornado alarms in Dallas. I think that was. Well, anyways, there was a post on Twitter from the San Francisco Emergency account that says on December 11th, so a week from tonight, they're going to temporarily shut down their outdoor public warning system for 2 years. That seems not like a temporary to me, but they're going to temporarily shut down their public warning system for 2 years to update the operating system and strengthen encryption. And if you want to receive alerts to text your zip code to a certain number, and you will get the announcements on your phone. So
that gives a new meaning to blackout period.
Exactly. So for 2 years, I'm gonna sidetrack on that really quick. So for Thanksgiving, one of our other traditions is the kids all turn in their Christmas list for Santa Claus. Well, now they're old enough. It's just, what do you want for Christmas list? And daughter number 1 asked for these very cool looking D&D dice that are home hand created or whatever.
I know exactly which one she asked for. Okay.
A Kickstarter project.
Yep, I saw that. Oh.
And I went to look, and this thing has been so overfunded. It was looking for $20,000 and it's $2.5 million some odd. And so when I went to look at the rewards for the one she wanted, it says delivery August 2021.
August 2021.
Correct.
Oh,
so a year,
my gracious.
over a year and a half from now. And it hasn't even finished. It still has 2 or 3 more days before it funds. I mean, it clearly has funded. And so I texted her and I said, so this thing on your Christmas list that you saw is not coming till August 2021. You sure you still want it? And the answer was yes, I do. So we're getting daughter number 1 a Christmas gift
that she will receive in 2 years.
2 years away. Anyway, so
you're going to print out the
long
Kickstarter backer page.
Exactly. Here you go. Here's a picture of what you want.
Here's a printout of a piece of paper.
Yeah. So emergency status, the emergency alarm system, warning system in San Francisco out for 2 years while they upgrade encryption.
While you upgrade the operating system. So you could probably write an operating system in 2 years.
I want to know what operating system it's running.
Right.
Is it, well, whatever. It's got to be a custom.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing.
This is follow up. This isn't like, whatever. Okay. Well, I actually had a piece of follow up as well. And it was mainly just because I didn't really think we should spend enough full topic time on it. But this is another open S3 bucket from Sprint. Well, it wasn't from Sprint. That's kind of the reason why I thought this was worth talking about, was because the bucket had a bunch of bills in it that had like photocopies of bills or images of bills from all the major cell carriers. And then the bills obviously contain personal information, name, address, phone numbers, call histories. Essentially these were collected as part of Sprint offering to get subscribers of other carriers to switch to Sprint.
Right.
So
send in your bill and we will credit you whatever.
Right. I don't. I remember seeing some of the commercials.
I've seen in promotions.
We'll cut it in half, right, or something along those lines.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so the bucket had more than 260,000 documents. That was a lot. So the vast majority, it says, of which were phone bills, dating back as far as 2015. Obviously, it was an exposed bucket, world readable. I didn't notice if it said whether or not it was world writable or not, but for an exposure, that doesn't really matter. But the tricky thing here is they couldn't tell who the bucket belonged to. And what I thought was funny and worth trying to figure how somebody tracked this down was as they looked at the documents on here, and I don't know who had to do this that figured it out. If you have 260,000, I don't know if there was a structure in here or something along those lines, but there was a document that said test. Well, it says test in uppercase with a period at the end of it, if the what's in quotes is correct here, which evidently wasn't the same as other documents in the folder. And so they downloaded that file, ran it through a metadata checker. So, right, if you use Word to create a document, or depending on the program you use to create a document, right. There can be metadata in there. And so via the metadata of this test document, they identified the person who created the document, who was an account executive at Deerdorf Communications, which was the marketing agency tasked with the Sprint promotion. So it wasn't Sprint's bucket.
We have a winner.
But it was Sprint's marketing agency's bucket that had collected all of these other images and then had it open. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting, more interesting than just a world readable bucket, because of what they had to do to sort of track down the
right.
Who was
what?
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Cool.
And yeah, protect your AWS buckets, folks.
Yes. Well, I have two topics.
All right.
Both mobile phone related.
Both mobile phone related, of course they are.
Yes, one Android one and one iPhone one, because as you know, I carry around an Android phone and an iPhone. And I'll have to tell you about I got the Pixel 4 finally.
Ooh, yeah. Is that going to be something fun? Maybe you can have two. You can have two something funs. Okay.
Anyways, so the first one is a vulnerability that exists in Android phones that is still a vulnerability today. It hasn't been patched, and what it allows, and it's actually part of the API for Android. So I'm not exactly sure how they're going to fix it, but the vulnerability allows malicious apps to masquerade as legitimate apps once someone has trusted an app. So if you've got an app that you trust and then you happen to download a legitimate, a bad app that has this malware in it, it can pretend to be one of those good apps that you already have installed. And when you launch the good app, it can take over. And as long as you think it's the good app, it'll do that. So the company that found this was Promon, and it's calling the vulnerability that it found StrandHogg, which is an old Norse term for the Viking tactic of raiding coastal areas to plunder and hold people for ransom. So that's what the basis of this app is. And the API, or the piece of the Android API that it takes advantage of, is there is a function inside an Android application when you have an activity that allows it to assume the identity of another app or a task when it's running in multitasking. So you can
impersonation of some sort.
Basically do some impersonation. And then as long as the malicious app that goes in and says, I'm going to take over this other app, looks close enough to the app you already trust, like your banking app or one of those other apps, then you may not, unless you're really paying attention, you may not know. So some of the things to watch out for that you can look for is if the app you have that you trusted is, and you have already set up and logged into whatever, starts asking you to log in again, or if permissions pop up that don't actually contain the app name in them, just, hey, you need to add location services or whatever, or if the app asks for permissions that, why would my bank app need to have, whatever crazy permission it might want to ask. Or, the easy ones is kind of like any spam email, typos, mistakes in the UI, buttons that don't do anything when you click on them. So anyways, that was the Android
and that
article I saw this week.
No patch available at the moment.
Currently, there is no patch available. However, the apps that they found are no longer in the App Store. And Google has some comments in the article that says, hey, our Play Protect, we look for these types of apps and we boot them out. But, it's a reactive behavior. It's not a proactive. It's not, they can get in there for a while and then eventually get booted out. So it's a cat and mouse game still there. So there are currently no apps in the App Store that take advantage of this vulnerability, are known to do this, but it's not to say that there won't be one tomorrow.
Yeah.
So just a heads up for people with Android. Keep an eye on what your app is doing. If it looks like it's behaving bad, or if you downloaded some oddball app for fun. And then the second one, the iPhone one, only affects the iPhone 11. I do not have an iPhone 11.
Oh, I saw this one.
It came from Krebs on Security. And he found this because Apple is very much a we value and take your privacy seriously kind of company. But he was playing around with it, and he was able to find that even if he went in and turned off all the location services on his phone, the device would still show the little icon for location services.
That location, that somebody's using location services, even if
someone's using location
radio
services.
buttons turned off for all of them.
Right. You turn all the radio buttons off. Even for system services, you can turn system services for location off. There are apparently some system services that still do this. Now, he says he wasn't able to replicate this on older iPhone 8 or other models which have the latest iOS. It was only the iPhone 11s. iPhone 11 Pro is what he saw it on. And so he sent Apple a note saying, hey, I think I found a bug. Would you like to comment? And Apple responded that the company does not see any concerns and that the iPhone is performing as designed.
If you turn off system services, I would expect system services
or the location
to not use location. Yeah, sorry. If you turn off location for system services, you would expect that all system services that use location would be unable to do so.
Right. And so the Apple engineer wrote, and this is the quote, "We do not see any actual security implications. It is expected behavior that the location services icon appears in the status bar when location services is enabled. The icon appears for system services that do not have a switch in settings." So apparently there are some now with the iPhone 11. It appears that there are some services that do not have a switch that you can turn off. So his comment here is, this seems odd for a company that prides itself on privacy and making sure that you agree to everything. And Apple, to their credit, they do a really good job. But this was I'm assuming it's an oops somewhere, or there'll be an explanation at some point, because I can't imagine the current response to stand. So
yeah,
those are my two security notes this week. One for Android, one for iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, when I go in, so I have an 11 Pro and I'm looking in system services and there are a ton of switches in here, many of which have been used recently, but it's hard to know what there isn't a switch for. But for example, there are things, so Apple Pay merchant identification, call or cell network search, compass calibration, emergency calls and SOS, find my iPhone, HomeKit, location-based alerts, blah, 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 blah. There's a ton. But I can imagine if you go in and switch all of these things off, interesting. Yeah. And then you still see it. Interesting.
There you go.
Well, I will be curious to see what the escalated response is from the company.
That's right. That's right.
All
right.
Okay.
Well,
I have. Did I put 2 in here? Yeah, I put 2 in here. The first topic I have for tonight was a kind of related to my Mandalorian comment from the beginning here. But the title of this article is "How is NordVPN Unblocking Disney Plus?" So, there's a lot of claims made in this article that I don't know. I don't know if they're true, honestly. And it's one of those things that, it looks reasonable. There's a bunch of other links. You click and you read it. But, it's a, I was about to say it's a dude on Medium. I actually didn't see the person's name, but it's a person posting a random article on Medium. So, read it with a grain of salt. But having ingested that grain of salt, I'm like, it's pretty tricky. So the thing is that Disney Plus is only available in a limited number of countries, right? And if you want to try to access the service, you need to get an IP that makes it look like you're coming from one of those countries. And, I think some people try to use VPN services for this, but legit VPN services know this, and actually it's not kosher.
Right.
So the problem is, so this is a quote from the article. The problem is NordVPN is linked closely with a Lithuanian data mining company called Tesonet. NordVPN is said to be one of Tesonet's projects. Oxylabs.io is another one. So what's the big deal? Oxylabs.io advertises on its website 32 million plus residential proxies, 100% anonymous proxies from all over the globe with 0 IP blocking. Because basically, a residential IP address, if it's blocked, is going to hurt somebody's service it's basically an exit of one of your home IP, right? Or my home IP or something along those lines. And the thing is in order to accomplish this, they've basically got a botnet, right? Or it's not clear to me whether this is literally a botnet, like malicious, malware installed on devices, or people who install what they think is legit software that then just happens to co-opt their device, with or without their consent, to act as an exit for the VPN service. So, but what people probably don't realize, it's probably malware. I don't know. I don't know that, but what people wouldn't realize then is if you consent to that, then other people's traffic is getting routed through and looks like it's coming from could look like it's coming from your device, right? From your IP. And that includes the worst of what is potentially on the internet, right? Things that are actually truly illegal and evil. So not something that should be done by any legitimate business. So this person tried two VPN providers that he knows, and neither could unblock Disney Plus because they, of course. So what a VPN provider has to do is they have to have an exit agreement with an ISP somewhere, right? And that's how sort of the rules and laws are enforced, is by having actual legit agreements with ISPs. So, but when he tried NordVPN, he was able to do it. How? Well, of course, he's guessing residential IPs, but he did a little bit of sleuthing, figured out that, a way to see what his exit IP was, and basically found out what his exit IP was. It was because Disney's using Akamai as a cache.
Right.
And there was basically a request header that he could put in that he could get back the IP address that the cache saw him coming from. Mm-hmm. So then he basically disconnects and connects to NordVPN 30 more times to say, well, now where am I coming from? Well, now where am I coming from? Well, now where am I coming from? And they're all residential IPs. And the other quote from here is, all the most common US IPs are there. There's a list on the link of the 30 exit that he got. AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, CenturyLink, Charter Communications in the Midwest, Texas, PacWest, Northeast, and ISPs he's never heard of before. So like the one he mentions is Delcom. Who's Delcom? Well, rural ISP in Texas. So
could very well be your rural ISP in Hillsboro.
I didn't actually look at the list close enough to see if mine was on there, but yeah, absolutely. Totally possible. So this was a interesting sleuthing and potentially a terrible practice if true and if legit. So maybe don't use NordVPN. Maybe if you want, may I recommend TunnelBear? So
you may.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my first one. I thought that was
cool.
I thought that was interesting.
And I forgot that this was reInvent week.
It is. Now, I have not seen all the reInvent stuff, and we've talked about this. We've talked about this the last couple of years too. At least we talked about it last year. So then maybe next week there'll be more stuff from reInvent. But this was one thing that I saw today, and this is my next topic was something I saw today, and it's from reInvent. But I thought this was interesting because
I pre-segued you.
Yeah, you pre-seg. You're like, get going, John. That's all good. So the interesting thing here is what they call Graviton2. So AWS has obviously EC2 instances, but they released last year, I think, or a couple years ago. No, it was just last year, actually. It says at the top, we released the first generation A1 of ARM-based Graviton-powered EC2 instances at reInvent 2018. So why does this matter? Because ARM CPUs are getting pretty good, as you can tell from, especially if you're a iOS user, your whatever chip that's in your latest phone is arguably on some benchmarks, and maybe if you squint and take that with a couple of cubes of salt, you can get as fast of performance on your phone as on your laptop, probably. And which is just crazy sauce. But the other thing, I think, my opinion at least, is a lot of workloads in cloud are not architecture dependent.
Right.
I mean, think about all of the Lambda functions that are just running maybe some Java, probably JavaScript or Python code, maybe .NET or C# if you're really
weird,
really zany. But the code that is being written to run is probably being interpreted. Does it matter to you what it runs on? Nope. right? What you care about is when I call it, how fast does it start and how quick does it execute? You couldn't care a whit what happens underneath. And so, some of the ARM architectures will probably allow for incredibly dense, incredible density in the data center. So these Graviton2 powered, so basically just like Apple's doing their own CPU, looks like Amazon is as well. I don't actually know who makes the Graviton processor. There's a link in here, but I didn't follow it. But so the Graviton 2 based systems are, what does it say? It's a custom AWS design built using a 7 nanometer manufacturing process based on a 64-bit ARM Neoverse core and delivers up to 7 times the performance of the A1 instances, including twice the floating point performance. Additional memory channels and double-sized per-core cache speed memory access by up to 5x. So basically, in a year, they're getting a tremendous year-over-year speed up in the ARM-based clients, the EC2 instances that you will be able to choose in 2020. They're not available for selection at the moment, but they're going to have the two other interesting points in this article. I think the article that we'll paste in here, one of which is maybe three, because I guess the first I viewed this as somewhat of a minor point, but memory on all these instances is always automatically encrypted with 256-bit keys that are generated at boot time and which never leave the server. So that's interesting. But the other two things that I was going to point out, the first of which is that Amazon themselves are going to be using those instances to power many of their own services, right? Because, that's where it makes the most sense, where...
Right.
If you're trying to just lift and shift a workload that's running on Linux or running on Windows up into a set of EC2 instances, you still want them to run Linux and Windows, and you probably want to take your precompiled binaries and run them. But if you're using EMR or any of the, Amazon provided services like Lambda, the other examples they use here are Elasticache, ELB or Elastic Load Balancing, EMR, which is Elastic MapReduce. Amazon's responsible for taking your code and scaling it out to execute on data, or your search or your query or your cache, and scaling it out to, and they manage the instances and the caching and everything else. And so,
right.
Essentially Amazon's going to get a pretty massive reduction in costs, likely, and increase in density, likely, by leveraging these CPUs. So that's the first thing that I think is interesting.
On the power for performance scale.
Exactly. Right.
I don't think it'll cost them less electricity to run the same jobs that they have been running on other machines.
Exactly. And in and in less space. And it's almost unbelievable what it takes to actually power a data center these days, like a real like an Amazon or Facebook scale data center. So any significant increase in density that you can achieve, combined with a reduction in power consumption, it pays dividends in lack of or reduced cooling and reduced complexity in terms of replacements. There's a reason why it's been a long time since the big data center providers bought off the shelf hardware to put in their data centers, right? They've been building their own custom hardware for years, but custom chassis and stuff like that. But now, it's not that it's starting now, but they're building their own CPUs too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ton of workloads that are architecture independent. So the second thing about this that I guess I was going to point out was this isn't the A12 that's in your iPhone, with the 4 CPUs. So The it says we are working on 3 types of Graviton2 powered EC2 instances. So the general purpose one you can have 1 to 64 virtual CPUs and up to 256 gigabytes of memory. So that's a lot. That's a lot of CPUs. It's a lot of cores, and that's a lot of memory. So there's a general purpose. That's the 64 CPU or 60 virtual CPU. 256 gig of memory. Compute optimized is 1 to 64 CPUs and up to 128 gigs of memory. And then memory optimized can go up to 512 gigs of memory, which is significant.
Huh.
So these aren't going to be, let me go. I can have like my 2 gig instance. No, you can have a 512 gig instance. What does Eric say? Well, you need that to run your JavaScript. Oh, sorry. No.
No, you need that to run your build. NPM build. All right.
Okay. Well, anyway, I thought that was cool.
That's cool.
All right. How about something fun? You gonna talk to me about your Pixel 4?
Well, yeah, I suppose I could talk about. So a couple years ago, I got the Pixel 3 because I really wanted a phone with dual SIM support. And there were a couple other reasons that I had, but that was one I thought would be cool. I like to do a lot with both iPhone and Android, so I figured I'd get my own Android phone. And for the Pixel 3, for the first few betas of Android, whatever letter it was.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, supported it. And so I was running my dual SIM, and it was great. And then when they released the OS at the end, they had disabled it. So I was very grumpy. But now, not the Pixel 3, but the Pixel 4 now does officially support until
what was the reason they wound up pulling it from the Pixel 3?
I think I don't know for sure. I saw some different posts about it was just too buggy.
Yeah.
And it
must
wasn't
have been a hardware
just simply
thing too.
A software. Yeah, it wasn't just simply a software thing. There was something with the hardware. So, and then I was hoping last year with the Pixel 3a they would have fixed it. They didn't, because it was the 3a was apparently the same hardware, just with cheaper parts. So the Pixel 4 came out. So I thought, all right, I waited and waited to make sure that it did. I got it on the Black Friday sale, and it showed up the other day, and I've got it, and I'm running, yay, my dual SIM configuration, and so far I'm happy with it.
Is it working?
It's working great. I can text from either my work phone or my personal phone number, or receive messages on one or the other. It seems to be doing great so far, because whenever work restricts something, I can just flip over to my personal side of the phone and use that number.
So example, now you're effectively carrying around 3 phones.
Yes.
We're talking about virtual CPUs. You have your virtual phone.
Yeah, and technically my iPhone will do dual SIM as well, but I have not done that. I tried to do that initially with that one, and it didn't work out. Anyways, so yeah, that's a little fun. But I do have a different something fun.
Okay.
Which is a Twitter account, which is engineeringvids.
Oh, I follow this. I've retweeted some of their stuff.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, cool.
Anyways, so just in the last, if you follow it long enough, you'll start to see repeats of things, but occasionally they have some really cool things that they retweet about various aspects. So I don't know how to explain. There's fast videos of repainting an entire Boeing 777. There's hey, let's try, instead of Mentos and Coke, what happens if you do butane gas and Coke? The laminar flow effect of water, where it's flowing so smoothly that it just looks like solid. There's some wind turbine blade high cycle fatigue tests. So those are kind of cool to watch. But the really cool one I thought most recently was the planet Mercury mapped by the Messenger spacecraft, and you can see, I don't know, it just looks really cool.
I'm
that's
I'm
my something
looking at
fun.
it right now. That is totally cool. Yeah, I forget
and
what I
they don't tweet a
just the other day.
ton. Yeah, it doesn't tweet a ton, so it's only had 440 tweets so far. But occasionally I'll stop on it as I'm just flipping through Twitter, and there's occasionally something that is kind of like, that's kind of cool. I did not know that. So that's my official something fun beyond my Pixel 4.
Okay. No, that's cool. I don't remember what I did, but yeah, I like this. Although some of these things that they're showing, and I do remember some of the other stuff they've shown, like I have that in my shop. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I'm watching a chainsaw mill vid.
Yes, that one.
So, yeah.
Yes, that one's kind of cool too.
Okay. Anyway. Okay. Cool. Well, I can get distracted watching videos. That's his for sure. What is my something fun? My something fun. Okay. Yeah. This is a post that I saw, and I just thought it was kind of cool. So this is commands and tools for embedded reverse engineering, and a ton of the stuff is pretty basic. But especially if you're not a Unix guru, you probably don't know a lot of the basic stuff even. And anyways, it's always fun to sort of look through and see, things that you might even learn something anyway. So for example, there was one of these that I noticed, like I didn't know about hexdiff. I think that was the one. It was called hexdiff.
Yeah, hexdiff was a new one to me too.
Anyway, so on this post, they start with some basic commands like, what cat and file, and strings. So, file and strings are both really, these are long-term Unix commands, but file will tell you what type of file it is. So if you say file and then some executable, it'll tell you, it's a file image of some sort, an executable image. Here's a example of one. So ELF 32-bit LSB executable, blah, blah, blah. That was the second one I said. Strings is fun because strings will actually look for ASCII strings in a file. So, if you've got an executable and you wonder sort of what's inside there, you can just say strings on it, and it'll just kind of take a guess. If there's data that looks like a string, it'll say, well, here's what essentially should wind up being resources in the file, right? So if you have, like fprintf or something like that, where you're going to print a formatted string of some sort, you might see those things in there, that kind of stuff. And anyway, this goes through and it has a lot of the commands that I use like daily. So their example of find is almost, letter for letter what my common find command is. And I find, that I get super frustrated by the search in, what is OS 10 call? Spotlight? Yeah, right? They've got in the find. So I use a Mac. They've got in the Finder, they've got a box that you can search, and sometimes stuff comes up in there, but it
never finds
almost always better to just go to the terminal and say find dot minus name blah 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 if I know a portion of the name, or do a grep or a find to xargs in the grep. So so anyway, I just thought this was kind of a cool link. It's by Pentest Partners, which their phone number is a +44, so they must be in the UK. But they go through Nano and ifconfig and Telnet. So I love the fact that their example of telnetting is telnetting to an HTTP server and doing a GET request by hand. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that people that have been around have probably done a long time. SSH. Sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling through this. Ping, of course. MD5 sum, SHA-256 sum, hex diff. That was one of the ones that I've never used that, or I had never used that before.
Nope.
DD, which is a command that I've known about for 3 decades. No.
Yeah. If you've ever made a Raspberry Pi
More
image,
than 2
you've
decades.
used DD.
Yeah, but if you sat me in a chair and tied me up and said you have to successfully use a DD command without using the man page, I would fail. I would die of starvation before I successfully used a DD command. I think.
I think that describes me for just about every command. I'm always looking at the man pages again or the help. It's like, what is that again? Why remember something when I can just remember to ask for help?
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that seems like at the bottom of this article, they get into, very specific sort of commands to get into embedded systems. So these I'm less familiar with. Binwalk, flash ROM, sniff ROM, U-boot, Nmap I know. But anyway, so this it's just a cool article that goes through a whole bunch of tools and is probably a good read for anybody, if as a refresher or to get a nice basics. So that's my something fun this week. I had too many scientific something funs in a row. I had to do something else.
The one that I thought was really cool was the binviz.io. Upload a binary file and it visually shows you a visual structure of it, which I thought was actually really kind of cool.
That was the one right at the very end, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the last one, right after CyberChef, which is also actually kind of cool. So
yeah.
Yep.
So the thing, one of the comments on BinViz is you are giving them your file to analyze, so just know.
I uploaded mostly security MP3.
Okay.
You may have it. It's already public.
Uploading something to somebody is forever.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
cool.
Yep. Another fun episode in the can. Call it a show.
It's a show.
All right, Eric. I will talk to you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.